Welcome to On the Ballot with Ballotpedia, where we take a closer look at the top political stories of the day. Ballotpedia connects people to politics by providing neutral, nonpartisan, and reliable information on our government, how it works, and where it's headed. I'm Victoria Rose, and thanks for being with us. Today, we're going to take a step back from the news to highlight the Ballotpedia Fellows Program. The fellowship launched in June 2020 to provide high school and college students interested in getting involved in the political world at some level with an opportunity to gain experience in political research and analysis. Our fellows have been up to quite a bit this summer, and we're really proud of their work, so we wanted to take a second to introduce some of them to you. But first, I'm joined by the person who's driving that ship, no pun intended, volunteer and editorial programs manager, Sarah Horton. Sarah, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, Victoria. It's great to be with you.
It's hard to believe our Fellows program is already 3 years old. Can you take us back to the launch of the program and the sort of experience we set out to create for our fellows?
Yeah, absolutely. The launch of the program was really serendipitous, and it was inspired in large part by the situation we all found ourselves in early 2020, right around the time that I think we all were realizing that the pandemic was going to become something more than just, a couple of weeks inside or a couple of weeks of kids being on vacation from schooling. We got really lovely emails from some very stressed out students, both at the collegiate and high school level, that were all something along the lines of, hey, I need community service hours for National Honor Society, but I can't leave my house. Or I love volunteering with campaigns, but obviously they're not doing in-person door knocking. Or Ballotpedia is a resource that really matters to me, and I'm really grateful for the awesome coverage that you all are doing around COVID. Can I help? And we felt very well positioned, because Ballotpedia is a remote company and has been for so long, to sort of step in and fill that gap. I ended up involved because I have a background in academia prior to my work with Ballotpedia, and frankly, I just love teenagers and young adults. They're a population I've worked with for a long time. I find working with them really enriching. I learn and grow from working with them so often. And so we spun up this program to be a remote-first volunteer program to allow our wonderful fellows to have professional development opportunities and to really engage with the work that Ballotpedia does and learn how we produce the neutral encyclopedic coverage that we do.
I know, it sounds like a great opportunity, and also sounds like they have the perfect person at the helm for this, so thank you for leading it. How has the program evolved over the 3 years?
It's evolved a great deal. I don't think it would be wrong to say that, especially in our first class, we were very blunt and honest with the students that this was an experiment and it was something we were trying. And Ballotpedia internally has this constant improvement mentality that we talk about quite frequently. And I try very hard to make sure that we let our fellows know that that is part of our culture. And so for our first few classes, they were very aware that this was experimental, that we were learning and growing with them, and they provided so much wonderful feedback. So we worked on a number of different projects, sort of trying to figure out what this program could be. And then in mid-2021, we really started focusing on local elections with our fellows. So that was really the first point of evolution for the program. We decided that we had incredibly talented students that were coming to us who had the knowledge to parse through information about candidates in the same way that we do for Google. And so we started using those same Google standards to have our fellows research local candidates who are running for office. And in 2022, which was the first full year that we were doing that candidate research with our fellows, they researched over 4,600 individual local candidates. And if you think about users who find Ballotpedia for the first time, I became a Ballotpedia user because I was looking for information on the person running for a school board seat that mattered a lot to me and trying to decide who I was going to vote for. And Ballotpedia was the only place where I could find that information. So we are just really, really passionate about making sure that that information is available to our readers, and our fellows are the reason that that is possible on that local level.
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely filling a lot of holes where we don't have the manpower to find all that information. How about like the state of the program today? How many fellows are involved? How many hours are they working?
Oh my goodness. We are so fortunate. We have 48 fellows in this current class who come from institutions all over the country, whether that's local high schools, private high schools, public high schools. We have students who have come from undergraduate universities, community colleges, very prestigious universities, graduate schools, and they are just so dedicated to this work. They have been doing many hours of research, again, largely focused on local candidates. And for this class, we've specifically been focusing a lot on school board elections. And that's absolutely fascinating. And I hope that the students you'll be speaking with will tell you a little bit more about that. But it's really interesting to see how those races are run in different parts of the country and the different tactics that candidates are using. So for me, on my end, I'm very hopeful that for anyone who's interested in politics, this is going to give them a really healthy crash course on the different tactics that are used in campaigns and the different ways that campaigning has evolved geographically around our country, especially in the last few years.
What are they researching specifically about these school board candidates?
There are 26 what we call data attributes. They're these individual things that we believe we can find out about a candidate that will paint a full picture of who they are for our readers. It's everything from their personal Facebook page to a campaign Facebook profile to do they have nicknames to contact information. A lot of it has to do with the digital campaign infrastructure that we have all become a little more familiar with in this more virtual campaigning environment that we find ourselves in. So our fellows go out and look for those pieces of information, which sounds fairly simple, but I will say the data standards that we use are actually rather complex. It takes a little bit of time to parse through what is and is not considered an official candidate campaign page versus, an office holder campaign page, et cetera. And so they're really doing all of this work of verifying that information and making it readily available on our website so that readers can go and do a more thorough deep dive on these candidates themselves, knowing that this is verified, correct information, and that they know that this is coming directly from that candidate. So the way I usually try to explain it to our fellows is you are going out and sort of building this profile on this candidate for our readers and saving them a lot of time when they're trying to decide who they're going to vote for according to their values and their own political beliefs.
How about any fun memories or successes from the 3 years of the program?
Oh my goodness, we have so many at this point. The biggest one for me always that I reference for our fellows is just that in October of 2022, which again was the first year that 2022 was the first year when we were doing that data attribute research consistently with our fellows, we had over 2 million individual users access the candidate profiles of those 4,600 candidates that our fellows had researched just in the month of October of 2022. We had over 2 million people who had more information available to them because of our fellows than they would have had otherwise. And those pages received over 15 million views. So for me, the biggest success is the fact that we are achieving our goal of helping to solve the ballot information problem. Aside from that, I have just been personally really inspired by keeping in contact with a lot of our former fellows and seeing what it is that they have gone on to do. One of my very favorites was a young high school student who had already done tons of work with his state legislature and helped get legislation passed to improve a few causes that were very important to him. He went on to attend Harvard after that and is hoping to go be a lawyer. We have a lot of hopeful lawyers on our team, and The other thing I have just really loved seeing is how our fellows have been able to jump in and fill some gaps within our individual teams. We've been working more on having our fellows embed with individual teams and assist them with various projects. So we had our fellows working last year helping our marquee team with updating information about endorsements for specific candidates. And it's always really fulfilling to hear back from those project leaders who tell us pretty regularly, whether they are high school, college students, whatever schooling level they're at, that they are on the same level professionally as anyone else that they might work with. So it's really rewarding to see how skilled our fellows are right when they show up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Fellows Program has been a great tool to pull contractors. I mean, we use them on the ballot measures team for our historical ballot measures project, and we've made huge headway because of their work. So it's definitely been a great recruiting pool. Speaking of recruiting, I know we've just started our fall applications for the Fellows Program. What are you looking for in an applicant? And when you think about the ideal Ballotpedia fellow, what sort of characteristics come to mind?
Passion is the first one. As basic as that might sound, we really want people who understand that it is really hard to engage with the political realm these days, that it can take quite a lot of time to find information about the candidates that are on your ballot and to be able to assess anything beyond what letter is behind their name. And I've been very inspired by how quickly in our interviews we find that fellows get that they understand that it can be deeply time-consuming to find the information that you would want to feel good about the choices you're making when you fill out your ballot. So that general passion and understanding of our mission. After that, it's organization and a general willingness to jump in and try new things. We provide pretty comprehensive training, I believe, and if you are someone who cares about politics and who is relatively tech savvy, this program has been designed to be something that you can fit into your life, not something that you have to fit your life around.
That's awesome. And listeners, if you're interested, we'll definitely include a link in our show notes for the application. Well, that concludes this portion of the podcast where we get to interview the lovely Sarah Horton. And I'm excited to meet some of these fellows. Now I'd like to welcome to the show some of Ballotpedia's fellows. I'm so glad to meet all of you, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what your summer's been like so far as part of the program. Could each of you introduce yourselves and share where you go to school and what you've been focusing on? We'll start with you, Jason.
Sure, Victoria. My name is Jason Sherrick, and I'm a rising senior over at Wilton High School in Connecticut. And so far in my work as a fellow, I've been researching these ultra-local candidates for school board, primarily in rural Michigan, Ohio, and Washington, and adding information I find on these candidates into the Ballotpedia database.
Awesome. How about you, Elise?
Hello, my name's Elise. I'm from Woodstock, Connecticut, and a rising political science senior at Quinnipiac University. And as Jason said, we've been researching a lot of very uber local candidates.
Averill, how about you?
Hi, my name's Averill. I am a rising senior at Quinnipiac, majoring in political science and journalism, and kind of echoing what the other two said, really researching ultra-local candidates.
Great. And what made you all want to apply? We'll do the same sort of thing and work through the lineup. So how about you, Jason? What made you want to apply?
Well, Victoria, I've worked on campaigns and in a couple state Senate offices now. And overall, if you got to know me, you'd come to find that I'm really politically active and engaged despite not being able to vote yet. But in my work and interest in politics so far, Ballotpedia has proved to be such a useful tool to me that I know Sarah can attest to this. I pointed this out in my interview. I use it in my free time for fun. So when I saw the opportunity to be a fellow here at Ballotpedia, I not only saw it as a great opportunity to learn and volunteer, and overall just contribute to a mission that I believe in dearly, but also as an opportunity to give back to an organization that I utilize quite often and quite frankly has helped me a great deal in, all I do in politics and government.
That's really awesome. How do you utilize it as not a voter?
As not a voter, I use it as just looking at the candidates. I know Ballotpedia has a great tool where you can look at the bills and how they voted on the bills, as well as looking at primaries, because I think a lot of times primaries fly under the radar. So there's tons of great features to Ballotpedia that I just enjoy using. As I told Sarah, I use in my free time.
Awesome. Elise, why did you decide to apply?
My answer is a little bit two-pronged. So first off, I've political science major, and I've taken multiple political science classes, most of which are campaign and election based. And Ballotpedia has been a huge resource for me in tons of my research in my college undergrad career. So being given the opportunity to fellow for them was interesting to me just as is. And my second prong is that I worked a past internship at the state capitol up in Connecticut. And right now I'm working in a local municipal government in the town of my school. So being able to work on that local level and now being able to research local candidates has just been a very full circle and exciting experience.
Very cool. And Avril, how about you?
I feel like my answer isn't as exciting as these other ones, but really, I just loved the mission that it wanted to produce, giving people the most accurate information about state candidates, local, any type of candidates, really, giving them the most unbiased information that's possible. And it seemed very important to me to help contribute to this mission. Also, because with my future career path, maybe wanting to be a political affairs officer, it kind of goes within the same line of researching and being able to give good information to the public.
The day-to-day really looks like logging on into the database and going and researching some candidates. And you don't know where they're from. You don't know what they stand for. You only kind of have an idea what they are running for. That's because most of what we've been doing are school board candidates and this and that. But it's been really neat to get to see the different candidates and the different platforms that they're running on, even though these candidates are spread so far apart across the country. I know personally, I've had the experience of researching candidates for school board over in Michigan and Ohio, as well as Washington. And it's fascinating to me to see the similarities and the differences between their platforms as well as the campaigns that they decide to run in their strategy.
You all kind of briefly touched on this in your why you joined the Fellows program, but what are your plans for the future and how do you see this fellowship working into that? Jason, I'll start with you again.
Well, plans can change a lot, but right now I'm pretty set on becoming a public defender because in my opinion, I think if anyone takes a look at it, public defenders really do incredible work for our country and our society. They essentially help individuals with nowhere else to go and the justice system just bearing down on them. And they do this every day helping individuals. So I think that's a really important work. And I don't think a lot of people, and I don't think enough people, quite frankly, do it. And that's something that I really want to do.
How about you, Elise?
So similar to Jason, I want to go the law route. Currently, again, I'm a political science major, but I have 3 minors in public diplomacy, public relations, and also law and society. So my goal is to go to law school and hopefully have a niche in intellectual property law. I've been very interested in artificial intelligence and the gravitation and how fast technology has been moving, and law, quite frankly, doesn't catch up as fast as technology. So my goal is to be able to go into that realm and be able to create law and legislation around artificial intelligence and other sort of super technologies like that.
Yeah, that'll be awesome, being on that frontier of new technology and intersection of law. It definitely doesn't keep up fast enough with the technology. How about you, Avril?
So I am looking towards becoming a public affairs officer. So with my journalism degree and my political science degree, with being able to understand, have, and create valuable research for people to understand and have it in a digestible way to make informed decisions when it comes to voting in primaries or any big elections. I feel like that's very important and something I would hope to contribute to in the future.
Awesome. As Sarah mentioned, our recruitment for this fall's fellows is just kicking off. So do you all have any advice that you would give to anyone applying or considering applying? Jason, I'll start with you.
I think I can just give you one word, and it's apply. I can tell you from my experience, it's been an incredibly interesting as well as rewarding experience to be a fellow, because I was talking about this with my mom the other day. We live in this political environment where it seems like disinformation disseminates faster than the truth. And to be a part of Ballotpedia and to be a part of the fellowship with the mission of providing accurate and objective information to voters, regardless of the level of government it is, especially with the work we're doing with local school boards, those are probably the lowest levels of government. But unfortunately, as we've seen, I mean, these lowest levels of government are far from inconsequential. So all I can say is if you are passionate about politics, if you're passionate about government, if you're passionate about democracy, the mission of Ballotpedia has to be one that you stand for. It has to be one that you believe in. So just becoming a fellow is an incredible opportunity to help out with that.
This podcast is audio only, but off camera, our fellows coordinator, Sarah, is just on the verge of tears at how eloquently that was told by Jason. How about you, Elise? What advice would you give to anyone thinking about applying?
Well, definitely want to emphasize Jason's sentiments, but I would also like to add, just apply because of how manageable it is. Genuinely, I've been having a 9-to-5 internship at the local municipal government, and being able to use this as an opportunity when I have a couple hours of downtime or when I go on my lunch break, it's very easy to get into maybe 1.5 hours of work, just local research. And it's just a very manageable platform. And it's also just a very good opportunity to be able to have the opportunity to research local candidates.
That's a really good point. How about you, Averill?
I feel like the other two said it honestly the best, and especially covering all of Elise's point with being, it's very manageable work. I'm still trying to get certificates in humanitarianism and peace building and things like that. And with having that and able to, go in and do a few hours, it's very meaningful.
Thank you all for your time. That's all I have for this week's episode of On the Ballot. Make sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Victoria Rose, and thanks for listening.